Yay. Question number 1 looked really good. If I'm looking for X, U goes with D, so I got to set it equal to 45. So you just set these two things equal, solve for X, and you're good to go. Question number 2, I was surprised was a low question. So here we're given a pair of sides. So the 1 tick mark gives us one side. The 2 tick marks give us another side, and then we can always mark the reflexive side. So that third side is a reflexive side. So this is going to be side, side, side. We've got to be really good at identifying these in order to move on to the next lesson, which we're going to start today. Okay, so please put in the chat, unmute yourself if you have questions, comments. I'm just going to go over the low questions, not all of them. If you are given something that looks like this, use that as a key. This is a gift for you. This is like your insurance. So EG is the first 2 letters. It's got to go with HK. So HK. F is that middle letter. So it has to go with J. These symbols are important. So this is angle F. Angle F goes with angle J. Angle J. Boom. Then this one is triangle. So sometimes this symbol will be a triangle. That means I'm talking about the whole shape. If this was just angle FGE, this symbol is different. That's an angle and that's a triangle. Then I'm talking about angle G on the F side. But this is triangle, so it's got to match. It's got to be one of these 3. FGE goes FGE, middle, last, first. So it's got to go JKH, middle, last, first. JKH, JKH, matches here. Okay, the order matters. If you haven't done the IXL, this is the whole reason to do the IXL, the J's and the K's, is it forces you to practice this order. And if you don't have the order right, you're going to make crazy mistakes on otherwise easy problems. Okay, if you're just joining us, we're reviewing the homework, the quiz from day 3, which was on the 13th. Okay, so we did question 2, we talked about question 3. Question 4, similarly, we've got a pair of sides. So these 2 tick marks give us a side, QP and ST. And then we've got an angle, angle Q and angle S, that's an angle. And then we've got these vertical angles. So you can always mark vertical angles. Angle R in the P triangle and angle R in the T triangle are congruent. Those are vertical. So here I need to read these in order. I've got an angle, and they are not connected by this side. So this has got to be angle, angle, side. Angle, angle, side. This side does not connect those 2 angles, so you can't do the side in the middle. The side has to go on the outside. Does that make sense, that difference? Yes, no, maybe so? Okay. Everything looked good on 5 and on 6. 7 was a little bit of craziness. So AS is your knife. Knives don't get cut, ideally, when you cut something, right? It stays intact. This is not going to be split. And then it cuts CT in half. So C is going to be one piece, and T is going to be the other piece. This shows CT cutting AS in half. AS stays intact, CT gets sliced. So it's not this choice. This isn't even a segment. This is angle CAT being cut. So that's an angle, not even a segment. This is also an angle, not a segment. This is showing AS is the knife. Knives don't get sliced, right? They do the slicing. CT is the sandwich that's been cut in half. That's how I want you to think about those. Okay, hopefully that's helpful. And then question 8. RS is the midpoint of QS. All we know is QS. So R is the midpoint of QS. That means those 2 pieces are congruent. We don't know anything about PT. the picture is leading you to believe that PT has also been bisected, but I don't know that because I'm not told that. Then I've got PQ and TS. PQ and TS are congruent. And then I can always do vertical angles, right? So if I go down here and I look at what I've got a pair of sides, got another pair of sides, and I've got a pair of angles. So that's the ASS property. Is that a thing? It is not. Okay. This one's not enough information. The tricky part is knowing that these two pieces are not congruent because it doesn't say that. You can't assume it, and it doesn't tell you. Question number 9 looked great. Question number 10. A bisects CT. There's no picture. Draw yourself a picture. Invest in your own success by drawing a picture. Doesn't have to be super neat. CT is my segment, and A bisects it. So A is in the middle. I know that bisect means to cut in half. So AC and AT are going to be congruent. Notice it tells you to draw one. So CA equals CT or AT? CA equals AT. It's going to be this one. And it's definition of bisector. You're going to use this word, and it's a segment bisector, not an angle bisector, because this, my friends, is a segment, not an angle. Does that make sense? Kind of, sort of, maybe? Okay. Let's get out of that and go into our practice for the day. Since we reviewed that, we're not going to do our warm-up today. So there is a warm-up, just so you know, because this is kind of what's going to be on the third part of the test. So third part of the test is going to have all this review stuff. You're going to need to know midpoint. You're going to need to know triangle sum. You're going to need to know valid arguments. You're going to need to know corresponding angles. And going to need to know how to set up sides and angles. Make sure you read carefully. Reading is fundamental, right? Got to know these. But we'll do a warm-up tomorrow, so no worries. What I do want you to do now is go into your digital notebook. Okay, so everybody go into Schoology, find your digital notebook. I can't give you a link because you need to open yours. So inside here, you should have in progress. If it's not in progress, click the link at the very bottom. Hopefully everybody used these yesterday, right? So we've done some congruency statements. This page should be complete. These 2 pages should be complete. These 2 pages should be complete, or this 1 page. It's nothing really to do on this page. These are proofs. And then yesterday, you needed to work on proportions, right? Did everybody do the proportions? Watch the video, do A1. So I did look, and it looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. About half the class has done A1. Congratulations, I'm super impressed. If you are not among the people who have done A1, I need you to do it, okay? IXL A1. Invest in yourself. You need to make sure you get that done. It's just cross multiplying. So you're going to do 8 times 9 and 3 times V. 3V equals 72. And then you divide. You got to know how to cross multiply. It's going to be super important here. I don't want to take a ton of time, but I do want to look at this last one just to make sure we know how to distribute. So with proportions, you multiply across that diagonal. So 7 times V plus 3. 7 times V plus 3. And then I multiply across the other diagonal. 2 times V minus 1. Does it matter which one of these comes first? It doesn't really matter. I can multiply the right or the left. It doesn't matter. What matters is distributing. So I got to distribute the 7 times the V and the 3. So we get 7V plus 21. And then we've got to distribute over here. So 2 times V is 2V, and 2 times minus 1 is minus 2. Right? Then we subtract the 2v from both sides, we get 5v. We subtract the 21 from both sides, and we get negative 23. And v, did I do that right? V equals negative 23 over 5. It's going to be some weird decimal. Questions on that? That's proportions. Your review. All right. Then let's go to slide, this is 9. Slide 9 is where we're going to start our real learning for today. So what is similarity? Similar is when things are the same shape but different size, right? So I've got a little worm here and I've got a big worm here. They're the exact same worm. I'm just closer up to one than the other, right? It's like perspective. Polygons with the same shape but a different size are what we're looking for today. The important thing is right in here. Okay. Corresponding angles. So angles are going to be congruent. They're going to be exactly equal to each other. But sides are going to be proportional. We're going to have to compare two fractions in order to figure out sides. Because some of them are going to be big and some of them are going to be small. Okay. The perimeters are also proportional. So sometimes you can save some time by knowing that the combination of sides is also proportional. So let's look and see what that actually looks like. If we come down to the bottom here. So we know our angles are congruent. J is going to be exactly the same as P. And K is going to be exactly the same as M. They are all congruent, right? They're going to be exactly the same. And L and N, same thing. But with the sides, because I've got this symbol right here, and I can't even tell you how important that symbol is, this is the similar symbol. There's no equal sign under it. That means you've got to have proportions. So JK, that yellow side, oops, tried to get yellow. The yellow side, JK, goes with the yellow side, PM. So we're going to put those in a fraction together. Then KL, the green side, KL is going to go with NM, KL and NM. And then the blue sides also go together. Okay. Notice that in this purple triangle on the left, all of those sides, J, K, KL, and JL, are all in the top of the fraction. They're all next door neighbors. Okay. And over here in this triangle, the bigger triangle, they are also all next door neighbors. So I've got one triangle all side by side. I've got the other triangle all side by side. I've got the two small sides sitting on top of each other, the two medium sides sitting on top of each other, and the two large sides sitting on top of each other. This organization is going to be crucial. If you don't set up the proportions correctly, you can solve them all day long and they're not going to be right. Okay, and we'll practice that today. That's like the hardest part of today. So let's look at two examples because there are so many examples here, it doesn't make any sense to do a ton of them. We know from our key that AB goes with DE. So AB is in yellow and DE is in yellow. The 25 and the X have to be in the same fraction, 25 and X. The 20 and the 28, we know from the key, also have to go together. The 20 and the 28 have to go together. But there's two more things that we need to know. The X and the 28 are both in this small triangle. So the X and the 28 have to be next door neighbors. I usually put the two numbers in the small triangle in the top of my proportion. And I usually put the two numbers in my big triangle on the bottom of my proportion. So you got to make sure that the same triangles are next door neighbors and the two small sides and the two large sides are next door neighbors. Okay, and you get that information from the key and from the picture. And we'll practice that. And then solving is just cross multiplying, right? Do we have any questions on the cross multiplying part? I know I'm doing a lot of talking at you. Okay. If you're given a scale factor, you're going to do the same thing. You take that scale factor and you put it as a fraction, usually small over big, right? So 2 over 3 becomes 2 over 3. This visually is my small triangle. So the 42 has to go with the 2. The 42 and the 2 go together. That's my small parallelogram. And then I've got my big shape over here. So the x goes with the 3 because the x and the 3 are big. Then you just cross multiply and boom. That's how you solve for a missing angle or a missing side. Questions? All right, let's go to the next slide. We'll look at 2 more examples and then we'll do some practice. Oops, that's not what I wanted. I don't know why my keys don't do what I want them to do. All right, so the last thing we need to know today is there are 3 ways of proving triangles similar, and they're all 3 are on this page. 2 of them are familiar. We've done them already with congruent, and 1 of them is different. This one is the different one. Angles can only show similarity, okay? This is definitely the easiest one. If I give you the vertical angles and I give you another set of angles, I've got 1 pair of angles with 1 loop, and I've got another pair of angles with another loop. That's how we prove angles. I'm not given any sides here, so I can't use sides to prove anything, okay? If it's not given to you, you don't know it. Questions on angle? Got to have 2 angles in order to prove it. Then we've got side, side, side. Side, 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 some people think is the easiest. I think it's just a lot of work, so it's my least favorite. But here I'm only given sides. I'm given 3 sides in the small triangle and 3 sides in the big triangle. The small side goes with the small side. 3 is smaller than 4 and 5, and 6 is smaller than 8 and 10. So the 3 goes with the 6. You reduce that and get 1/2. Then I've got the medium side, the 4 and the 8. 4 and 8 also reduce to 1/2. Those 2 match. Likewise, the 5 and the 10 also match. So 5/10 turns into 1/2. Notice that the 3, the 4, and the 5 are all the small, medium, large of this triangle on the left. And the 6, the 8, and the 10 are all the small, medium, large from the triangle on the right. All of the purple triangle numbers are on the top, and all of the red triangle numbers are on the bottom. Proportions can't work if you mix them up. If you start with a small triangle on the top, it has to be in the top the whole way through. If you start with the big triangle on the bottom, it has to be on the bottom the whole way through. I'm not given any angles here. So if all you're given is sides, it's probably going to be side, side, side. Okay. Last one is a combination. Here we've got 1 angle in each triangle, and we've got 2 sides. So here you got to do a combination. You know you've got 1 set of angles, so that's your angle. Now I've got to prove my sides are congruent. So here they started with the 8 and did 8/6. So this is big over small. 8/6 reduces to 4/3. Then I come over here and I do 20/15. Because I started with the 8, I've got to start with the 20. 20/15 also reduces to 4/3. So this is going to be side, angle, side. Side, angle, side. You have 2 sides that are connected by this angle. Okay? Over here on the right side, you've got some notes. So congruent triangles can be proven in 5 different ways. The sides are what? What should I type there? In congruent triangles, the sides are congruent or proportional? Congruent. And the angles are also should be congruent, right? It's like 2 sticky notes. If I take my stack of sticky notes, I can separate them however many times I want. These sticky notes are always congruent. They're exactly the same size and shape. They're all 3-inch sticky notes with right angles. Okay? But if I come over to similar, sides are going to be proportional. And angles are going to be congruent. Okay. Sides are congruent, angles are congruent, and sides are proportional and angles are congruent. And you can reference this on the test, on the quiz today, on the practice test, whatever you need to do. This is going to be super important. Okay. Should we practice some? Okay. I'm going to close this out. Let's go back into today's lesson and do some practice. Cadence, that's so frustrating. I was in that thing yesterday and my internet was doing the same thing at my house. It was maddening. I got Terminator voice again. They were making fun of me. You know it's bad when adults are making fun of other adults. All right. So again, we skipped the warm-up today because we reviewed the quiz. These are the notes that we just did. If you're confused, there's a YouTube video right here that you can watch. There's also videos embedded, right? But this is where I want to go now. So let's open this Pear Deck link. I'll put it in the chat for all of those like me who struggle with having so many tabs open. There you go. Please go to that Pear Deck link. It's going to take you to here. Okay, and I might actually just draw in the Pear Deck. No, I think I'm going to draw in this. So what can I tell about the angles for these similar triangles? Remember, this means similar, not congruent. That little squiggle right there is going to be super important when they start getting mixed up. That means similar. So what can you tell me about the angles? What angles go together? You can either unmute yourself, just shout it out, put it in the chat. What does F go to? Angle F is congruent absolutely to angle J. That's an F, by the way. Doesn't really look like one. So angle F goes with angle J. What other angles go together? What's G go with? Somebody else I haven't heard from today. G goes with K, absolutely. So I mark those with loops. Those are loops. G and K go together, which means H and H go together, right? So H and H have to go together. There are those vertical angles. Angle H and angle H. Remember that little weird L just means angles, right? So then I've got some sides, right? What does GF go with? GF. So that's from the one loop to the two loop. What does GF go with? Yeah, GF goes with KJ. We're going to put those in a fraction because they're not equal. One is small and one is big, right? So they've got to go in a fraction. GF goes with KJ. What about GH? What does GH go with? GH goes with KH. And then the last one, oops, I forgot to mark that. KH, that should be purple. I hate it when my color coding goes astray. I can't do that. So then FH and JH. F H over JH. Notice that G, H, and F are all together. G, H, and F are all on the top. And K, J, and H are all on the bottom. K, J, and H are all on the bottom. This is the small triangle. This is the big triangle. When you're setting up your proportions, that's super important. All of the sides of one triangle have to be next door neighbors. And all of the sides of the second triangle have to be next door neighbors. Okay. JH. Yeah, trying to translate my handwriting is definitely, it's like translating a separate language. Does that make sense? So GF goes with KJ, GH goes with KH, and FH goes with JH. And all of the sides from the left triangle have to be next door neighbors, and all of the sides from the right triangle have to be next door neighbors. It's kind of an organizational nightmare. That's what my closet looks like. I need somebody to come in and do this to my closet. All right, let's look at slide 2 and see if we can actually make some solves for some x's here. So when you've got two triangles, this one visually looks small and this one visually looks large, right? I always start with one triangle. Because that looks to me like it's the large triangle, I'm going to put 32 and 36 on the bottom in the denominators. Okay? I always start with the triangle that has the two numbers. I think that's easiest. And I usually put the large numbers on the bottom. It's almost like gravity takes the large numbers to the bottom. It just helps me so I'm not paralyzed by making decisions of where to start. Okay, half the battle is just starting somewhere. So then let's always start with the smaller of those two numbers, the 32. What side does AG go with? What side goes? KX, absolutely. So those two things have to be in the same fraction. If I have 32 on the left, then I need x plus 3 on the left. Okay. So I started with the triangle with the numbers, and then I just took the smallest number and found its match, which means that GM, the last two letters, have to go with XD, right? Again, I've got this similar here. Similar means I have to make a proportion. If this had the equal sign under it, the congruent symbol, then I could just set these equal to each other. But because it's got that similar symbol, I got to do this. So then I got x plus 3. Now we've got to cross multiply. So you multiply across the diagonal. 32 times x plus 6. And we got to distribute. Did anybody do 32 times 6 yet? It's 32 times 6. 192 maybe? Somebody check my math on that. 192? Okay. I'm so proud of myself. I could not do that mental math this morning at 7 o'clock. My brain was just not working. So then we come over to the other side, 36 times x plus 3. Again, we're pulling back to that distributive property from algebra. So we got to do equals 36x plus, and that's 90, 108, question mark. So that's 32x plus 192 equals 36x plus 108. I always subtract my smaller variables first. So 36 minus 32 is 4. And then 192 minus 108 is, what is it? I need help. 84, thank you. My brain is exhausted. So then we divide and we get x equals 21. It's asking us for x, so we know we're done. I very strongly encourage you to go back and put those numbers in. So 21 plus 6 is 27. And 21 plus 3 is 24. if you get in that habit, then if they ask for a side length, then you won't be tempted to just put 21. You can also check for reasonableness. This 32 is smaller than 36. So this red one over here, the 24, should be smaller than 27. It makes sense, right? You can always check for reasonableness this way. And I strongly, strongly, strongly encourage you to do that. How are we feeling about these? Kind of, sort of, maybe? Try slide 3 on your own. How are you going to set this up? I'm watching your Pear Decks. So if I'm looking at this, got a large triangle, got a small triangle. I'm going to start with a small triangle. You don't have to do that. I know I've got it similar, so I need to make a proportion. And then I've got this large triangle. So what goes with the 10? What goes with CH? TL. And what does X equal? Anybody solve that? Riley, how you doing? You okay? Anybody get an answer? 9. Awesome. So did anybody set this proportion up differently than I did? Because one of the things that makes these confusing is there are lots of different ways to set up their proportion, and they're all correct. Don't get me wrong, there's lots of ways to set it up incorrectly. But basically, these two sides have to be next door neighbors. These two sides have to be next door neighbors. And then the small sides, CH and LT, have to go together. And the large sides have to go together. But there are literally 4 different combinations of being able to set this up. If we don't have any questions, let's look at number 4. Number 4 is a little bit different. So I need you guys to talk to me at this point. We did one of these in the notes, but it was only one, and it was a handful of examples ago. So what do I do when I have a scale factor? How would you start this? What do you know? X over 28, I love it. So I've got X over 28. And I know I need to make a proportion, so what do I do now? Why 6 over 5? It is the scale. How do I know it's 6 over 5, not 5 over 6? Why does the X have to go with the 6? I 100% agree. I just need to know why. It's bigger. This is the large triangle, so it has to go with the larger number. This is the smaller triangle, so it has to go with the smaller number. Okay? If we don't talk about that explicitly, then sometimes we're kind of confused about how to put the proportion together. So you've got big over big and small, or big and big next to each other and small next to each other. That's how I know it has to be 6 over 5, because it's the big X over the small 28. So then we cross multiply and we get 5X equals, oh Lord have mercy, 28 times 6. What is it? 168. Excellent. And then I divide, and I get what? 33.6. Okay. The decimals should make you pause a little bit. Okay. We are not always going to get whole numbers, especially in our next unit when we start with right triangles. We're going to have to be okay with decimals. Here, this makes sense. I'm looking for a larger number than the 28, and I got a larger number than the 28. Okay. Number 5, we're not always going to just have triangles. Sometimes we'll have multi-sided shapes. Okay, so these are quadrilaterals. We're going to do the same process. It just has more options. What do you want to start with? Should I start with the X and the 75? Or should I start with the 32 and the 40? What do we think? Tech, what do you think? Should we start with the 32 and the 40 or the X and the 75? Let's do it. So we'll do X and 75. I can't say X equals 75 because I've got this similarity statement here. So I know I need to put it in a proportion. What do I put on top of the 75? The 40 or the 32? PS. PS. Brendan, what do I put with the, what goes with PS? WZ. And WZ is that 40. So the 75 and the 40 have to be together. Okay? It's like you're doing Match.com or something. Which means that SR has to go with ZY. ZY. So the 32 has to go here. Okay? Zach very easily could have said, start with the 32 and the 40. We would have put the 32 and the 40 together and then matched the 32 with the X and the 40 with the 75 to finish our proportion. Then we just cross multiply. So 32 times 75 divided by 40 is, anybody get an answer? 32 times, oops, can't type correctly, divided by 40, should be a nice round number. What'd you get? Awesome. And then remember, always put that in to see if it makes sense. That 60 should be smaller than the 75 because the red number is smaller than the purple number. Okay. How are we feeling on a scale of 1 to 5? Everybody has to respond. On a scale of 1 to 5, how are you feeling? 1 is, do we really have to do this? And 5 is a, hey, I got this. Nice, Jaden. Thanks for sharing. All right. Let's practice then. All right. Last thing we're going to do today before you have a second quiz, I know, I'm sorry, is we're going to do some sorting. So on this one, the nice thing about this practice, oh, I opened the Google Slides, not the Pear Deck. I meant to do the Pear Deck. The nice thing about these is if you know you have sides or angles, you can always eliminate 2 answer choices. Okay. So I'm going to put the Pear Deck link in the chat. Kaboom. We'll do like 1 together, and then I'm going to have you work on your own. I think I'm just going to open this one. And then we'll come back at a certain point, and we'll kind of revisit. Okay. Does everybody have access to the Pear Deck? Did I give you the right stuff? Okay. So you're going to start with 1 triangle. It doesn't matter which triangle you start with. I'm going to start with this one. And you want to organize your sides, small, medium, and large. Okay, so the 5 is smallest. I'm going to start with that. The 6 is mediumest. I know that's not a real word, but I feel like it should be. And then the 8 is large. Okay, because I'm trying to do similarity, I know I have to make these into fractions. So then I come down to the second triangle, and I've got to organize them in the same way. Small first, medium second, large last. So my smallest number is this 12.5. And my medium number is the 15. And my large number is the 20. If I only had 2 of these, I could do some cross multiplying. Because I have 3, there's a slightly easier way to do it. We could also just reduce the fractions, but I've got this decimal right here, and the decimal makes my brain hurt a little bit. So what I want you to do is divide them in your calculator and find the decimal equivalent. So this is just one more strategy, one more way of getting the right answer. In your calculator, what is 15 divided by 12.5? Or 5, sorry, divided by 12.5? Anybody get an answer? 0.4. Do that for 6 over 15. So all I'm doing is taking that fraction and dividing straight down. Same thing. You have to test all 3. It's a pain in the neck, but you got to do it. 8 divided by 20, all 0.4. Because I started with sides, I've got a side of 6, a side of 5, and a side of 8. The only possible thing it could be is side, side, side. If all of these numbers are exactly the same, then that's it. I don't have angles, so it can't be angle, angle. I don't have any angles, so it can't be side, angle, side. And they all worked out, so it is not similar. It is not similar. It is not similar. Yes. Okay. Look at this one and talk me through it before I let you go on your own. What would you do here? Angelina, where would you start this one? With the sides, yeah. Would you start with the big triangle or the little triangle? Okay, I think that's great. So we do 16 and 16, right? And then Kaylani is telling me 40 over 16. So I'm not sure which 16 goes with the 40, but it doesn't really matter because they're the same. Is 16 over 40 the same as 16 over 39? Are those the same fraction? Do they equal each other? They do not. You can find the decimal equivalent by dividing them if you want, but they're not similar, or they're not the same. So this is going to be not similar. You do have this vertical angle right here. So if this worked out, if this was 39 and 39 or 40 and 40, then it would be side, angle, side. This is the best wrong answer. It can't be angle, angle because I don't have 2 sets of angles, and it can't be side, side, side because I don't have that third side. Does it make sense? Kind of, sort of, maybe? Okay. You guys try the second one, the next one, while I do attendance.